I'm Nicholas, a 23-year-old guy, and for as long as I can recall, my family has brushed off my passions as mere pastimes I'm expected to outgrow. My younger brother, Adrian, who's 21, has always been the one they showered with attention and support. He's into sports, football, to be precise, and in my family's eyes, that instantly made him the golden child. I don't have anything against sports, but while Adrian was chauffeured to training sessions, equipped with pricey gear, and cheered for after every match, I was holed up in my room, sketching, painting, and teaching myself digital art on a used tablet I saved up for on my own. Whenever I showed my mom a piece I'd spent weeks perfecting, she'd give a half-hearted smile and say, "That's nice, Nicholas, but focus on something practical too." Practical, meaning anything but my art. My dad, quieter but just as biased, would chime in with comments like, "Your brother's games unite the family. Drawing is just, well, it's just drawing." Over time, I stopped showing them my work entirely. But I never stopped creating. By college, I built a portfolio I was truly proud of. It wasn't just sketches, it was full of concepts, storyboards, and designs I'd poured countless hours into. I planned to submit it to a graduate program and a few design firms with open calls. To me, it wasn't just paper and ink, it was years of dedication, my shot at a future. That sketchbook was my constant companion, always with me because inspiration could strike at any moment. It wasn't fancy, just a battered black book with worn edges, stuffed with extra pages, notes, and a USB drive tucked in the back pocket. Adrian knew how much it meant to me. He also knew it was my lifeline. Adrian has always been tough to deal with, arrogant, entitled, and the type who thinks the world revolves around him. If he didn't get his way, he'd throw a tantrum until my mom gave in. If I got anything, even something small, he'd find a way to ruin it. My parents' response was always the same: "He's just young," or "Don't rile him up." So when I say I should have seen it coming, I really should have. It happened one Saturday afternoon while I was in the living room, putting the final touches on a piece. Adrian sauntered in, fresh from practice, and sprawled across the couch like he owned it. He started tossing out snarky comments about how I was still doodling while he was out achieving real things. I ignored him, as usual, keeping my pencil moving. But then his tone changed. He leaned closer, eyeing my sketchbook. "What's even in there, huh? You act like it's a treasure chest." Before I could react, he snatched it from my hands. "Adrian, give it back," I said, standing up instantly. He smirked, that smug look he always had when he knew he was in control. "Chill, I'm just looking. What's the big deal?" He started flipping through the pages, making exaggerated noises. "Ooh, spooky creature. Wow, just lines. This looks like a kid's scribble." My chest tightened. "Adrian, I'm serious. Give it back." By then, my mom had walked in from the kitchen, drying her hands on a dishcloth. "What's all this about?" she asked. Adrian turned to her with a grin, still clutching my book. "Look at Nicholas losing it over his little sketches." I lunged for it, but he jerked it away and, before I could stop him, tore out a page. Then another. The sound of ripping paper hit me like a punch to the gut. "Adrian!" I shouted, reaching again. He dangled it above my head, out of reach. "Relax, it's not a big deal," he said, smirking. I froze. My mom sighed and rolled her eyes. "Honestly, Nicholas, it's just paper. You can draw it again." I couldn't even speak, my heart was racing too fast. That portfolio was more than drawings. It was my work, my future. And in seconds, my brother had shredded pieces of it while my mom dismissed it like it was nothing. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I just gathered the torn pages from the floor, hands shaking, and walked to my room. In silence. Behind me, I could hear Adrian's mocking laughter echoing down the hall. But here's the thing about me, I don't lash out. I don't scream. When I'm pushed this far, I get quiet. And when I get quiet, I'm already scheming. That night, I sat on my bed, staring at the ruined pages, feeling something shift inside me. Adrian thought he'd won, and my mom thought it was no big deal. But I knew something they didn't. When I woke the next morning, the sketchbook sat on my desk like a wounded creature, torn pages jutting out awkwardly, crumpled from the damage. Every glance at it made my chest tighten again. I hadn't slept much, my mind kept replaying Adrian's laugh, my mom's careless gesture, the way my dad didn't even bother to ask what happened. Just another case of Nicholas overreacting, right? Another boys will be boys moment they'd brush aside so Adrian could skate by without consequences. But I couldn't shake the thought that maybe, this time, I had the upper hand. Because unlike them, I didn't underestimate myself. That USB wasn't just a backup, it was my leverage. It held not only digital copies of my portfolio but also Adrian's dirty secret. See, over the past year, Adrian had taken to boasting to his friends about his accomplishments, college essays he claimed were his own, projects he said he created, even scholarships he hinted he'd secured. What he didn't know was that his so-called loyal buddies had been screenshotting, saving, and sometimes even sending me bits of his lies because they found it amusing. They knew how he treated me, and they knew he stretched the truth. One of them had even forwarded me a draft of his college transfer essay, the one he supposedly slaved over for weeks. Except it was plagiarized, word for word, from an online sample. On that USB, I had the screenshots, the essay file, and every message proving Adrian was a fraud. It wasn't just about revenge, it was about fairness. If he could destroy what mattered most to me, maybe it was time he learned what it felt like to lose something he valued. I didn't act impulsively. I spent the morning calmly. I showered, ate breakfast, and even offered to clean the dishes while my mom scrolled on her phone in the kitchen. I must have seemed too composed, because she squinted at me and said, "You're not still upset about yesterday, are you? Don't let Adrian get to you." I forced a smile. "No, Mom, I'm fine." Meanwhile, Adrian swaggered around the house like nothing had happened. He had practice later that afternoon, so by noon, he was lounging on the couch, scrolling his phone. I slipped upstairs, shut my door, and set my plan in motion. I drafted an anonymous email the night before, nothing dramatic, no harsh words. Just a concise package, a PDF of his plagiarized essay, screenshots of his messages bragging about fooling the admissions office, and a polite note suggesting someone should investigate before granting him opportunities he hadn't earned. I didn't send it to just one place. I sent it to two, the admissions office of the university he was trying to transfer to and the coach who'd been eyeing him for a scholarship. I clicked send. Then I waited. It didn't take long. Around noon, I heard Adrian's footsteps storm upstairs, followed by a door slamming. Then muffled cursing. Then silence. Then something I'd almost never heard from my brother, panic. His footsteps came pounding down the hall, and my door flew open. He was pale, clutching his phone. "What did you do?" he demanded. I looked up from my desk, where I'd been calmly sketching on a stray sheet of paper. "What are you talking about?" "Don't act clueless, Nicholas," he yelled, his voice breaking. "My coach emailed me saying someone reported me for cheating. And the school too. My essay, they say it matches some website." He was trembling. I'd never seen him like that. I tilted my head, keeping my face blank. "That's weird. Did you actually cheat?" His mouth opened and shut like a fish. "That. Not the point. Someone sent them proof. It had to be you." I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed. "Why would I? According to you, my little sketches are worthless. Why would I bother with you?" He glared at me, his face splotchy with anger. "Because you're jealous. You've always been jealous." The word almost made me laugh, but I held it in. He genuinely believed that. He thought I envied him when all I ever wanted was for him to stop trampling over me at every chance. Before I could reply, my mom's voice called up the stairs. "What's going on?" Adrian shot me a final glare and stormed off, yelling, "Nothing." But I could hear him downstairs, frantically trying to explain to my mom what had happened. At first, she didn't believe him. I could tell by her tone, saying things like, "Adrian, relax, and you're overreacting." But then came the silence when he showed her the email. A moment later, my mom called out, "Nicholas, come down here." I took my time, slowly putting away my pencil, standing up, and strolling downstairs like I had no worries. They were in the living room, Adrian pacing like a caged animal, my mom standing rigid with her arms crossed, phone glowing in her hand. She turned to me. "Do you know anything about this?" she asked, her voice sharp. I blinked innocently. "About what?" Adrian jumped in, his voice cracking. "He did it. He sent it. Who else would?" My mom's eyes narrowed at me. "Nicholas." And there it was, the familiar tilt of the scales. Adrian in trouble, and instead of facing the fact that he'd cheated, they were already looking to pin it on me. But this time, I wasn't letting them rewrite the narrative. I let out a slow breath, kept my voice steady, and said, "So you're saying Adrian cheated, and instead of owning up to it, you want to blame me?" My mom's jaw tightened. Adrian opened his mouth to argue, but I raised a hand. "Tell me this, Mom," I said, keeping my voice steady. "If someone sends proof of plagiarism to the school, does that mean they made him plagiarize? Or does it mean Adrian messed up and got caught?" Adrian's face flushed crimson. "You're trying to destroy my life," he yelled. Just then, my dad walked in, clutching his coffee mug like it was any ordinary Sunday. "What's with the shouting?" he asked, glancing between us. Adrian turned to him, frantic. "Dad, Nicholas sent stuff to my school. They think I cheated." My dad's brow furrowed, first at me, then at Adrian. "Did you cheat?" The room went quiet. My mom's lips tightened into a thin line, and Adrian stammered, "That's not, why are you even asking me that?" I watched it all unfold with an odd sense of calm, like I was observing from a distance. For once, I wasn't the one scrambling to justify myself while they shielded him. For once, the flaws in his perfect image were starting to show. But I knew Adrian too well. Panic made him unpredictable, and his entitlement made him ruthless. As his expression darkened, I realized this wasn't over. He wouldn't just accept the consequences, he'd try to pull me down with him, no matter the cost. The next few days felt strange, like living in a dream. Adrian was a whirlwind trapped in the house, pacing endlessly, phone in hand, checking his email obsessively. My parents' usual dismissive smiles and "boys will be boys" excuses vanished. Instead, there was tension, frustration, and, strangely, a hint of fear. My mom kept wandering the living room, muttering about fixing the mess and protecting our name. One afternoon, as I sat sketching quietly at the kitchen table, she said, "Nicholas, if anyone asks, you didn't do anything. Stay out of it. Let us deal with Adrian." I looked up, my pencil pausing over the paper. "So you're saying you'll make sure he faces no consequences?" She didn't respond directly, just gave me that exhausted look that meant she wanted me to drop it without arguing. My dad, meanwhile, was having hushed conversations with Adrian, their voices carrying through the walls. It was all about managing the story. "This can't get out. We can't let people think you're a liar. You're not the issue here, he is." Adrian, of course, didn't buy it. He was spiraling harder than I'd ever seen. He'd spend hours drafting emails to the admissions office, then scrapping them, then starting over, not realizing each attempt only confirmed the evidence I'd sent. He tried to rally my parents to his side, expecting them to fight his battles. But I could see their support cracking. One afternoon, he cornered me in the hallway, his face pale, eyes wide, voice trembling. "You're unhinged. You actually sent it." "I didn't send anything," I said, calm as if discussing the weather. "You think this is a game?" His fists clenched at his sides. "You're trying to ruin me. Do you know what this could cost me? The scholarship, my transfer, my entire future?" I tilted my head. "You mean the future you tried to cheat your way into?" His jaw tightened. "That's not the point," I continued, my voice slow and deliberate, each word sinking in. "This isn't about me. It's about you facing the consequences of your actions. You shredded my work. You lied about things you didn't do. You underestimated me. And now you're panicking because the truth is catching up to you." Adrian's face contorted with rage. "Mom! Dad! He's out of control." I ignored him and walked away. I heard my mom's voice calling him back to the living room, firm but measured.
"Adrian, calm down. We'll handle this properly."
In that moment, I realized something key: my parents weren't truly going to bail him out. They cared more about their image than fairness. They weren't cruel in the obvious sense, just morally lazy. They wanted the simplest path to keep up appearances, even if it meant excusing their son's lies or manipulation. That evening, while Adrian sulked in his room, I set my next step in
motion.
I logged into a secure email account I'd set up months ago for submissions and sent the same dossier to a local art contest offering a small scholarship for young artists. I attached scans of my own work, my portfolio, pristine and complete, and included a short note about how I'd been working independently for years, submitting original pieces for review.
I knew Adrian had entered that contest too. He'd bragged once about how easy it'd be to win. He didn't realize art wasn't just scribbles to everyone else, that real judges could recognize skill and authenticity. The next morning, my mom was fussing over breakfast, acting like everything was fine. Adrian came downstairs, scowling as usual, phone pressed to his ear. I could hear his foot tapping on the kitchen tiles. "Mom," he snapped suddenly, "did Nicholas?" She raised a hand, cutting him off. "Adrian, I don't know what you're getting at. Breakfast is ready. Eat."
I could feel his eyes on me, that desperate, calculating stare he gave when he was trying to figure out if I'd done something.
He couldn't pin it down, but he sensed it. Later that day, I went to a coffee shop to sketch. When I returned, my parents were whispering in the living room, glancing toward the hallway every few seconds.
Adrian was nowhere to be seen. I assumed he was in his room, plotting some frantic counterattack.
The next afternoon, it happened.
I came home from class to find the mail scattered across the kitchen table. My heart raced when I saw a large envelope addressed to me. I opened it and found a letter from the art contest, first place. They wanted to showcase my work, with a small scholarship included. I smiled quietly, slipping the envelope into my bag.
I knew Adrian's reaction would be explosive when he found out. It didn't take long.
That evening, he came storming downstairs, face red, eyes wild, waving the envelope.
"What is this?" he shouted.
I set my sketchbook on the table calmly.
"That's my award. The contest. I won. First place." His face went blank. "No, that's impossible. I entered that too." "How?" "You didn't enter it," I said evenly. "You just assumed you'd win. You didn't submit real work. You just bragged about winning before it even happened."
He blinked, confused and furious.
"Mom! Dad!
Nicholas is lying." My mom looked at me, then at Adrian, then back at me. Her lips pressed together, and I could see her mind racing, how to spin this, how to protect the family's image.
I didn't wait.
I opened my laptop and pulled up my contest submission, showing the original files, timestamps, and confirmation emails.
"Look," I said. "It's all documented. All mine. You told me to redraw what you destroyed, Mom. I didn't just redraw it, I did better. Now you see what real effort looks like." Adrian's hands shook as he reached for the laptop. "This isn't fair. You can't just watch me," I said softly, letting my calm sink in. My mom muttered under her breath, something about "how do we explain this," clearly rattled. My dad, still holding his coffee, just frowned. They were caught in a moment where their own biases and favoritism had backfired spectacularly. And Adrian?
He was starting to see that the easy path he'd always leaned on was crumbling. Just when I thought I could step back and enjoy the chaos I'd carefully set in motion, Adrian did something unexpected. He stormed out, slamming the door behind him. My mom turned to me, her face tense.
"Nicholas, what have you done?"
I shrugged, still composed.
"I didn't do anything. I just let the truth come to light." But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. Adrian wouldn't let it stop here. He'd come back, more desperate, more reckless. And I had to be ready.
I sat at the kitchen table, opening my sketchbook to a fresh page.
Quietly, methodically, I began planning my next move. Adrian didn't come home that night, and I slept lightly, not out of fear, but anticipation. I'd seen this pattern before. When cornered, he lashed out, leaving. Fear, but anticipation. I'd seen this pattern before. When cornered, he lashed out, leaving chaos in his wake. Now, with the contest win and the email scandal, he was caught between panic and pride. The next morning, my mom called me to breakfast with an unusual urgency. "Nicholas, sit down. We need to talk." I walked into the kitchen slowly, already sensing what was coming. Adrian was pacing behind the table, phone in hand, face flushed, muttering to himself. My dad sat quietly, fingers tapping on the counter. My mom tried to keep her voice even, but her tight jaw gave her away. "Nicholas," she started, "we need you to fix this. Adrian can't have this ruin him. You need to make it right." I paused mid-step, staring at her. "Make it right? Mom, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't cheat. I didn't plagiarize. I just let the truth show itself." Adrian's head snapped toward me. See? See what he's saying? He's trying to pin this on me." My mom's sigh was sharp, frustrated. "Adrian, Nicholas isn't lying. We don't want this getting out. You need to calm down, or this could look bad." Bad. That word stuck with me. Until now, bad only applied to me when I tried to stand up for myself or highlight my achievements. Now, it was Adrian's world on the brink. "Mom," I said slowly, choosing my words carefully, like threading a needle. "You've spent years telling me to stop overreacting when he takes things from me or lies about himself. Now I'm overreacting? Or is this just about keeping up appearances again?" Her lips pressed together. She opened her mouth, then closed it. My dad finally spoke. "Nicholas, maybe this has gone too far." I raised an eyebrow. "Too far?" "I didn't do anything except make sure the truth was seen. Adrian chose to cheat. Adrian chose to brag. Adrian chose to destroy my work. Maybe you should ask him why he's the one in trouble, not me." Adrian's face twisted with fury. He leaned forward, his voice low and dangerous. "You think you're smart. You think this is done. It's not. I'm going to make you pay for this," Adrian hissed, his voice dripping with venom. I tilted my head, unfazed. "Go ahead, Adrian. What's your plan? Accuse me of something I didn't do again? That's been working out so well for you, hasn't it?" He stormed out, the door slamming so hard it rattled the windows, the sound reverberating like a warning shot. My mom's hands fidgeted nervously over the kitchen table. "Nicholas, please," she pleaded. "Don't make this worse for him." I shook my head. He's already made it worse. I'm just watching it unfold. That afternoon, I got a text from one of Adrian's so-called buddies. He tipped me off that Adrian was scrambling, reaching out to neighbors and classmates, desperately digging for any shred of proof that I'd sabotaged him. I read the message quietly and smirked. Adrian's panic was starting to spill into public view, small circles at first, but I knew if I played my cards right, I could widen that spotlight strategically. That night, I stayed up late in my room, digitizing my portfolio into high-resolution files. I also compiled a second set of evidence, a meticulous record of Adrian's plagiarized work, screenshots of his boasts to friends, and timestamps proving he'd copied from online sources. It was airtight, organized so anyone reviewing it would see the undeniable truth. The next morning, I discreetly emailed the file to Adrian's academic advisor with a polite note explaining why I thought they should see it. I kept it factual, no embellishments, just the raw truth. Later that day, when I got home from class, the house was thick with tension. My mom was pacing again, her voice sharp as she talked on the phone. My dad's frown was deeper, and Adrian wasn't in his room. Then I spotted him outside, sitting on the front steps, phone pressed to his ear, gesturing wildly, his panic practically radiating off him. He knew this was bigger than he'd expected. I took my time climbing the stairs to my room, passing the living room slowly, deliberately letting him see me. He glanced up,
fear and recognition flashing across his face, then quickly looked away, muttering under his breath.
By evening, the tension erupted. My parents summoned me to the living room again. Adrian had returned, lugging his laptop and a messy folder of printouts he'd thrown together. "Nicholas," my mom snapped, "what's going on? Why is Adrian like this?"
I sat down, crossing my arms, leaning back casually.
"What's he like, exactly?"
Adrian slammed his laptop on the table, papers scattering.
"You're trying to destroy me."
"You're doing this on purpose," he shouted.
"Mom, Dad," he sent it to my advisor. "And the school. They think I cheated." My dad raised a hand. "Adrian, calm down. Explain." Adrian turned on me, eyes blazing. "Explain? He's the one ruining me. He's the one who..."
I held up a finger, cutting him off.
"Let's be clear. Adrian, you chose to cheat. You chose to plagiarize. You chose to brag about things you didn't earn. I didn't do any of that.
I just made sure the people who needed to know saw the truth.
That's all."
The room fell silent.
My parents exchanged a glance, the kind that screamed, "How did we miss this?" Then Adrian did something unexpected.
His hands trembled as he grabbed a pen and scribbled frantically on one of the printouts.
He ripped the page out, crumpled it, and shoved it at my mom. "Look. He's lying. This proves it. Nicholas is trying to."
I picked up the crumpled paper, smoothed it out, and immediately recognized my own handwriting. He tried to pass off my notes as his evidence.
"Interesting," I said softly, leaning back. "So now you're faking evidence to cover your lies?" Adrian froze.
My mom's eyes widened.
My dad's brow furrowed. All three of them saw what I'd been holding back.
Adrian hadn't just tried to ruin me, he'd shown how far he'd go to protect his deception.
And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just about the contest or the email scandal anymore. Adrian had revealed his desperation, entitlement, and recklessness when backed into a corner. And my parents?
They were finally seeing the cost of raising a son who thought rules didn't apply to him. I leaned forward, my voice calm but sharp.
"Adrian, you made choices that led you here. Now you're clutching at straws. That's fine.
But you've also shown everyone exactly who you are and what this family becomes when you get caught lying." He stammered, eyes wide, but no words came out. My mom's voice broke the silence, tight with frustration.
"Nicholas, this is too much. You can't keep doing this." I shook my head. "I'm not doing anything. The truth is doing the work."
Adrian's face twisted with panic and rage, like a trapped animal.
Deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. Over the next week, the house felt like a pressure cooker.
Adrian avoided me, hiding in his room with the blinds shut, muttering to himself or yelling at his phone. My parents were a different kind of storm, whispering, pacing, exchanging nervous looks, and occasionally directing pointed comments my way. I had no intention of apologizing or smoothing things over. They'd spent years downplaying my work, dismissing my achievements, and letting Adrian trample me. Now, they were facing the consequences of enabling him. I moved forward methodically, step by step. First, I contacted the art contest organizers and confirmed my winning submission could be shared online as part of a feature on emerging artists. I knew Adrian had bragged about easily winning any contest, and I was ready to let his arrogance crumble publicly. When the announcement went live, his carefully crafted image began to unravel. Neighbors, classmates, and even some of his teammates started messaging me, asking if it was true that I'd won and that Adrian hadn't submitted anything legitimate. Whispers about his cheating had circulated before, but now, with solid evidence, they became undeniable. I didn't confront him directly, I didn't need to. Instead, I let him stew in his panic, trying to justify himself to anyone who'd listen. Every attempt only confirmed what people already suspected: he'd lied, plagiarized, and expected others to cover for him. My parents were the most shaken. My mom spent hours on the phone with neighbors and relatives, trying to spin the narrative, but her desperation was obvious. My dad tried to step in, but even he couldn't hide the growing embarrassment. They'd lost control of the story. For the first time, the consequences of their favoritism hit them head-on. Adrian's breakdown peaked when his academic advisor called us both to a meeting. I arrived prepared, with a neatly organized folder of timestamps, screenshots, and digital copies of my submissions. Adrian fumbled through his explanations, caught in lies he couldn't sustain. Every word he spoke was countered by the evidence I'd compiled. By the end, the advisor made it clear Adrian faced disciplinary action, his scholarship was at risk, and his transfer application was under serious scrutiny. I, meanwhile, was praised for my professionalism, organization, and integrity, a stark contrast that felt like justice unfolding in real time. When we got home, Adrian sat silently in the living room, staring at the floor. He didn't speak, didn't glare, didn't try to argue. My mom's face was pale, her lips tight, while my dad avoided my eyes entirely. For the first time, the family dynamic had shifted. The golden boy, the untouchable son, had been exposed as entitled, dishonest, and unable to face accountability. I sat at the kitchen table, sketchbook open, and continued my work. Adrian and my parents didn't interfere. The house felt calm for the first time in years, though the silence was heavy with their unspoken regret. But the twist was yet to come. A few days later, I received an unexpected email from the art contest organizers. They'd discovered that Adrian had submitted an entry. After all, under a pseudonym, using a doctored version of one of my older designs, pulled from a shared cloud drive he'd accessed without permission. The organizers had cross-checked the metadata and traced it back to me. Adrian's attempt to steal my work for the contest had backfired spectacularly. They disqualified him immediately and issued a public statement about integrity in submissions, without naming him directly. The fallout was swift. Adrian's teammates, already skeptical, distanced themselves. His coach, citing character concerns, dropped him from consideration for the scholarship. The university issued a formal warning, and his transfer application was rejected. My parents, now cornered by their own complicity, had no choice but to confront the truth. Their favoritism had enabled a liar, and the consequences were undeniable. I didn't gloat. Instead, I framed the contest award certificate and hung it in my room, a quiet reminder of what integrity and hard work could achieve. Adrian, meanwhile, retreated into silence, his bravado gone, his plans in tatters. My parents stopped trying to spin the narrative, their energy drained by the weight of their own mistakes. One evening, as I sketched in the quiet of my room, my mom knocked softly on the door. "Nicholas," she said, her voice quieter than I'd ever heard. We didn't realize how much your work meant. We should have seen it." I looked up, pencil still in hand. "Yeah," I said simply. "You should have." The house stayed quiet after that, but I knew the story wasn't over. Adrian would rebuild, maybe even try to come for me again. But I was ready. My sketchbook, my USB, my truth, they were my weapons. And I'd learned how to wield them with precision. The next chapter was mine to write, and I was already sketching the outlines of a future where accountability, not entitlement, would win.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a twist. Stay tuned to Reddit Tales Times for your daily dose of drama, laughs, and unbelievable stories.